It Happened on the Job, the podcast for relatable conversations with contractors. Sponsored by Goodman Insurance.
Welcome to It Happened on the Job. This is episode 145. My name is Mike. That's Brian.
Yo.
Today's episode is brought to you by the Buildsters. Check out thebuildsters.com to find out how you can become an accredited Buildsters member, Buildsters Pro member today. You'll instantly become a part of the network of the best suppliers, manufacturers, and contractors in the industry, where you'll have the ability to showcase your work to thousands of qualified buyers. Stop paying for leads that don't convert and become a Buildsters Pro member today.
One of these days.
Tough one today.
One of these days. We'll get that down.
Tough one today.
Oh, I love that. Our guest today, Mr. Serko Cachadorian, president of Quadrant Inc. How you doing, Serko?
I'm doing real good. How are you doing?
Great, man. Great to have you on the show. Just for everybody to understand, obviously everybody knows, well, at least it's no secret, Mike and I are in insurance, and Serko has been one of my clients for several years now. So great to see you, and
welcome.
Great to have you on the show today.
Thank you very much. Likewise.
Yeah. Well, wanted to get started. Want to ask you how you got started in construction and how you got started with Quadrant Inc. especially. So maybe start from the very beginning and kind of ramp, tell us your journey of how you got to where you're at today.
Of course. So I wanted to be an engineer. So I went to school to Cal Poly Pomona, and then started studying for a Bachelor of Science in Civil and Structural Engineering. So I graduated in 1987, got my degree, and then got hired by a structural company, started working in design. And so that I found that very boring. So you need to sit down and on your desk and do the design, and then they assign you something very specific, so you don't see the end product. So you're just working on a single item. Then I moved on to a soils engineering company. That was a little bit more exciting because I was going to the field, doing field tests, soil tests, excavating, and so on.
Yeah.
And so I said, I'm liking this a little bit better. Then I saw that there is a program at UCLA. It's called a certificate program in construction management. So I took it. It was a series of 6 courses, graduated from that. And after that was it. I wanted to do construction and not design. So I moved on, got my license, and started doing construction.
So did you start with Quadrant, or did you start working for another contractor? How did that start?
I started as a superintendent with a construction firm, and then became a project manager. And then as soon as I got my license, I started working on my own. Back then, this was in the early 90s, Quadrant was not formed. About 8 years later, I decided to incorporate and founded Quadrant Inc. So it was a name I came up with. I thought it's very convenient because it's a form of the structural element in the design. So you occupy quadrant of place. So this is why I called it Quadrant. And after that, one thing led to another, and then Quadrant grew, and we started doing larger and larger projects.
So what kind of work are you guys doing now? Where do you find yourself focused?
So mostly we do residential work. We have done some commercial, but mostly it's very beautiful single families. We do very beautiful apartment buildings, condominiums. We currently are focusing on small lot subdivisions, which are fantastic because they're an alternative to single families. They're a little bit more expensive than condominiums, but less expensive than homes, but they offer all the amenities of the homes. They have rooftop decks, and clients are liking them.
And are you guys doing full new builds, like from the ground up with these?
It's mostly new builds. So we focus on, from the very beginning, working with the client, even attending public hearings. And in just a small side story to that. So when I remember once we went to a public hearing, and it was tremendous opposition. It was not a huge project. It was 11 units, and then the lot was the zoning allowed the 11 units. It even allowed for more, but the owner wanted to build 11. So we went to the public hearing, and we were called the worst names in the world because they were opposing it. But anyways, the project got the permit, and then after it did, the neighbors who were opposing us became all my friends. They saw that I'm not the enemy, neither is the owner, but they saw that we're approaching it honestly, and then we had a certain way of doing things. We always asked for let's say permission if we're doing anything out of the ordinary. If we're going to make noise, we contacted them, and if we're going to block the street for a very short while, we let them know.
Where was this particular project at?
This was in Silver Lake.
Okay. Were they just concerned that what was the thought, like that they would lose any kind of views or location, or what was the issue that was driving the hatred at the beginning?
There's always a combination of everything. So clearly the views, and also it had to do with probably they did not want any new development in the area, and probably the adjoining neighbors were more concerned than the others.
Yeah.
But it turned out okay. So I think now they're even proud of the project because it complements the architecture of the area.
Right. So Quadrant's been around for some time now, right? It's
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, incorporated in 2002. So and I started in 1990. So I've been around for a while in Quadrant since almost 20 years now.
Wow.
So when you started in 2002 and kind of hit the ground running, what was it like at the very beginning? What were some of the issues that you were facing just getting business and getting contracts?
Well, it's always difficult. I mean, the key is, Brian, to make sure that you have enough projects in the pipeline to be able to plan ahead. So getting the financing, getting the making sure that the projects are lined up, the approvals are obtained in order to start the project. So I always contacted the owners and asked them, like, hey, when do you think you're going to get the permit? And obviously they didn't know. I mean, the cities are big bureaucracies that sometimes cannot give any strict answers, replies on when they're going to get it. So that was one of the challenges. The other challenge was, of course, the physical part to find the right people who would be in the company for different aspects, and then also the right contractors. I mean, the subcontractors, the of the various trades. So that was always a challenge.
Yeah.
So when you say subcontractors, what's the breakdown of work you guys are doing? Like, do you guys self-perform anything, or is it 100%?
No. So we sub out all the specialty trades. So when, for example, we sub out the framing, the electrical, air conditioning, plumbing, fire sprinklers. So these are very specialized, and then they come and finish their own trades. What we do is the concrete work,
All the site work and
yes, the site work, setting up, and mostly the management of all these subs. So lining up one sub and making sure that the other one is ready. The key thing that sometimes we forget in the industry is we think if one item is done, it's ready for the other one. But there are lots of interconnecting parts. Like, for example, you finish the framing and the mechanicals, it's not ready for drywall. Of course, you need to finish insulation, but there's lots of trim work that goes in. Where do the doors go precisely? How do they finish? What does the casing look like? What does the sliding door look like? So these are all factors that need to be dealt with, and this is our job.
Yeah. And is that how you've operated from the very beginning? Is in that fashion as far as doing the site work and then subbing out the other trades, or is that something that's kind of shifted through the years?
Yeah, of course, it has shifted. In the beginning, my office was my car. So you sit, you got everything in your car and you're working from there, and you have figure out how to work the computer properly and connect it to the internet, do your work from there. And then, it was fun because then you have direct contact with everybody. But then as soon as you start managing more projects, you have to assign superintendents and be in contact with them and try to address the big picture.
Mm. So can maybe walk us through the growth plan a little bit then. So obviously, probably started like a lot of people, right? I mean, very few people start with hundreds of millions of dollars in projects, or even tens of millions that they're ready to do. But so you started with, just one or two projects, you and your car, and now I would imagine you're operating multiple at a time, or even larger ones. So what was that growth process like? Was it deliberate? Were there things you did to make sure that you grew, or how did that work for you?
Well, it is. So we established ourselves to be reliable, I guess, to the clients, and we got contacted by several of our previous clients and new ones who knew them. So it was basically word of mouth. I don't think we ever advertised and got clients like that. Our projects are very long term, so it's not like a small remodel where you go in for a month or two or six. Because it's ground up, it's 2 years. So you're going to start from the survey all the way to the C of O, where you're following up the installation of the electric meters, of the cable and the phone lines. And that takes lots of detailed work. Yeah. It's not just in and out. It's just babysitting it from the beginning to the end until it basically is turnkey. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And so where did you kind of develop that process? I mean, obviously there was some schooling involved as well, but going from an engineering background or to someone managing a full project, I mean, that's quite a learning curve.
Yes. Or maybe in that first 10 years prior, right? When you were actually in the space of working as a superintendent, I'm assuming.
Yes, that's true. And I'll tell you, there's another part to this too. My dad was an engineer. So this is in Lebanon.
Okay.
So I have dual nationality. So I remember going to the job sites with him, and then how he was doing things. So it's one of the funny things is that he is. So the way I got the feel of this is when I was young and visiting the job sites, but my understanding was that he was not only the engineer, but he was building them. So the funny thing is, years later, I was living here and he was visiting me, but he was in Lebanon too, half the time. So he contacted me. He said, "Hey, listen, I have these properties in Lebanon. Are you interested in developing a project there?" This was in 1992. So the project load was a little bit low. And then, so I said, sure, something new. Let me go and try. So I went there, and so I worked on this project for about 1.5 years, 2 years. And that was amazing because I understood how things work in a different country. And then I understood what it meant to be an engineer there and here. The way we do business in the US is the engineer designs it in the office and the contractor builds it. Whereas over there, the engineer is responsible for the project from beginning to end. And that's
kidding.
That's why his presence on the job site when I was a kid interested me, that he is also the builder. Yeah. Whereas here, the engineer is not the builder, is the designer only. So that was an interesting period of my life where I did that project in a different country with different rules. And I was shocked to hear that there are no inspectors coming to inspect what we did. But then I also understood that I'm the one responsible for it.
Yeah. gives you a little bit more bearing of responsibility. You got to be a
Absolutely.
little bit.
So then I completely changed my mind. Like, no. We got to make sure everything that is done even better, because there's no one else checking on us. There's no one else who's going to sign off. We are the ones signing off.
That's a cool mindset, or a cool little philosophy to think about, right? I mean, could you imagine how much different the construction landscape would be, or even just how a project is managed, if they knew that nobody was going to come behind them checking their work and telling them how to fix it?
Responsible for it.
I mean, that's it'd be definitely a different way to work for a lot of people, for sure.
Very much so, and that changed my mindset. I mean, that was like a turning point. I had no idea this is how it was.
Well, and I have to imagine that probably, and I know you said that part of how you gained more business and grew was that reputation and that quality that you were giving out, and so maybe going through that process early in your life or early in your career definitely kind of gave you that mindset.
True, very true. Yes.
Yeah, even as a child, I mean, you're kind of absorbing that from your dad, right? You're realizing that, I mean, his level of work has to be top notch, so yours has to be too. I think a lot of ways, like, you grow up with that, right? Yep.
That's correct. Yes.
So maybe walk through the relationships with subcontractors. Yeah, that's always a I don't want to say a touchy subject, but a very very integral piece of what you guys do, and very important to your success.
Very, very touchy. So the subcontractors are people I see more than my family. So I see them more than my wife. So I better have very good relationship with them.
Right. Yeah.
But just like any relationship, it has ups and downs and interesting portions and very dull portions. So I have to maintain a very solid and business-like relationship with them. And at the same time, I got to make sure that what we're doing is happening. So if there is a plan, they need to understand what the plan is and abide by it. So I have used, I would say, 75% of the same subs throughout the years. Yeah. I've been very, very lucky. Somehow I was able to connect and choose the right people, I guess. And it doesn't mean that it doesn't change anything. It doesn't reduce the competitive aspect of the pricing I do. On the contrary, we are competing against other people. So it gives us a sense of being a team. So that helps the approach. And also in many, many cases, they really, really go out of their way for me. And a phone call at 10 p.m. for an emergency is addressed immediately. So that gives me the comfort level, like, okay, this is something I could continue without worrying of not being able to address it.
Well, and I got to imagine like attracts like, you know what I mean? Meaning if you are a hard worker and that's part of your DNA, that you are most likely going to be finding and interacting with others that are similar to you. And those that are not, you can easily push them aside. So I'm wondering if, kind of going back to working with your dad and learning the value of really working hard, and that the quality has to be there because it ends with me. And that mindset that comes in from there has really kind of driven your business in such a way that when you met with those subcontractors, because 75%, over 20 years is impressive in my opinion.
It is.
So
yes.
if you, so in those early days, as you're developing those relationships, it sounds like if you can kind of get in that mindset, understand that. And if you don't so there's a lot of people that listen to the show that are contractors, right? And they might not have that mindset. They might not have grown up with that. And so I think in a lot of ways, if you can kind of start developing that, that thought process of like, I am going to, everything ends and starts with me. And so if it does, the responsibility is huge. It's on my shoulders. So I have to get it done. I have to do it right the first time. And if it's not right the first time, I have to own up to that, fess up to that, and get it done the right way, you know? And I am wondering if those subcontractors too, that you created those relationships are, as a result of that, right? You know, you have that hardworking mindset and they understand that, and you guys attract each other, and therefore you stick together with, I mean, through thick and thin over almost, 19 years, 20 years.
Yeah, you make a very good point. That is true. Probably this is how they see it as well, because they know it's mutual.
Right.
I will go out of my way for them as well, if anything else, if there's anything to deal with. So you're right. This is how we people find each other and then work towards the same goal.
How many projects are you working on concurrently on average at any one time? Is it 1 or 2, 3, 4, or 5? What is that? What is that?
It's about 4. I would say 4 to 5. Okay. With different sizes. So some of them could be smaller than others. It could be like a small single family, or it could be a multi-family large project. But we are mostly infill builders. So we work in metropolitan LA from let's say the east side to Malibu, and so lots of residential projects that are infill in interesting areas or up and coming areas or rich areas.
Mm-hmm.
Has there been any interest in moving into the development side as well? I just feel like a lot of guys that get really good at the construction from start to end and managing that kind of also fall into, not necessarily fall into, but kind of, hey, let's be the development side as well.
Yeah, I am a partner in some of the projects.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
Perfect. And is that through your own interest, or people like seeing the value you bring and offer that to you, or how did those come about?
Both. In some cases, I'm given value. In some cases, it's my own interest that is invested in the project. And then it's also a project that I'm building. So it gives me even a further desire to achieve
for sure.
Perfection. Yes.
Yeah, no doubt. So what's it like? I mean, obviously being at the end, like what do those ending steps look like as far as cleaning up the project and making sure that it's ready? Like you said, that turnkey,
certificate.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. So I'll give you an example. So we had just finished the project a while ago, and then we thought we're done. Hey, we're gonna move in where everything is done. The inspection process after it was done took about 3 months.
Wow.
3 months.
And the reason being, it's such a huge bureaucracy in the cities now that you have about 20 inspections, and one thing is related to the other. This was a larger project where there was a public works element involved. So each item needs to be cleared. And unfortunately, because of COVID, the inspectors had a backlog. So each got delayed and delayed and delayed. And then, so we started the process, and then at the same time, we asked for the utilities to be installed. Unfortunately, the utility companies were not going to budge before we get the C of O. So we also had to wait to obtain the C of O and then start getting the utilities, which again took more time because of various reasons. So you have to deal with the water company, the gas companies, and then electrical cable. So there's various aspects. But one of the biggest pleasures that I have in this business is when the project is completed. Usually there's an occasion, either the owners invite me for an opening, or there is a dinner at the place that I built. And it's one of the biggest pleasures is to be present at this finished product that I worked on. And then when people are talking and toasting, I'm looking at every corner of the world like, okay, this is what happened here 6 months ago. This is what I did here a year
ago. All the stories from the different places.
Okay. Yeah, but it's really a pleasure to be there and to experience that. It's really is.
And know what's behind the walls. You almost could have that X-ray vision, right? You can kind of
Yeah,
know what's behind every wall.
Yes,
That's got to be a cool feeling for sure.
Yeah.
So, I mean, are there challenges you guys face? I mean, obviously, it sounds like that inspection one. I would hate to know if there's something worse than that, but a 3-month inspection. But what are some of the other daily challenges you guys kind of face?
Yeah, I mean, there's always the daily stories. I mean, the day goes sometimes very calm, and there's some urgencies that you need to run and deal with. So once we were building a house in the Hollywood Hills, and one of the subcontractors' workers was a smoker. Cigarettes. He's smoking a cigarette. So we used to take a break and smoke a cigarette from time to time. And I'm not a smoker. It doesn't bother me as long as I know the guy is careful and whatever.
Yeah.
So one of those days, I'm driving up to the property, and then as I'm arriving, I see like 2 huge fire trucks, 2 police cars. Like, oh my God, something bad happened. I park far, because there was no place nearby, so I start running. And apparently, one of the neighbors called the fire department because someone was smoking a cigarette. It was a relief, but it was like, guys, I get it. It could be dangerous, but sending 2 fire trucks.
Yeah, that's a little
overkill.
Yeah.
I did not see it going that way. That's funny.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say the guy burned down your project and was fired and never came back. But.
Yes, and I know it could happen, but I mean, the reaction was incredible from then on. No more smoking here.
Well, maybe talk about that in terms of employees and labor and what you're dealing with now in terms of just with COVID and with the increased amount of construction that's going on. Are you experiencing any shortages in terms of labor and finding good hires, or what is some of the struggles that you're dealing with there? Or if maybe there are no struggles, maybe you guys are humming. What's it like out there?
There are struggles. So the key is we were able to keep our team. So we're not necessarily hiring more people, but our struggles are finding the subs sometimes.
I was going to say, you guys are probably okay. It's probably more on the subcontractors that are
correct.
The issue. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So sometimes even a sub that I know very well, like the ones I described, may tell me I cannot do it in the next 2 weeks or a month. Then I need to make a decision. Like, what do I do? Can I wait? If I can, I'll wait. If not, I need to make a decision. So these are the shortages that we're encountering in the industry from my side. So as far as hiring, I'm sure some other companies who are have different, more employees than us are experiencing different things.
Yeah. Okay.
So what's the future look like for you guys? Where are you headed? I mean, obviously the growth potential is there. There's definitely a lot of money in the industry, and developing is always happening.
Yeah. So it's kind of deciding where we want to go. If we're going to grow bigger, we need to kind of expand the company in order to be able to handle something else. I see the company going towards having more projects, but at some point we need to, I guess, double up the crew to be able to do bigger things. But that shouldn't be difficult. I think it's, once you have the difficulty in the project is not necessarily the size. There's the size has one implication, and then there's other difficulties. It could be a hillside, it could be 2-story subterranean. I mean, those are harder than building, so many square feet above the ground.
Right.
So these are the decisions that we'll make as we go along.
Very cool, man.
Yeah.
So is there? I mean, I know we talked about it beforehand a little bit. Are there some things that you've seen out there that are might be a little bit entertaining for our
Oh yeah,
listeners.
there's many. I don't know where to start. Like, so once we're building this house for a producer, a movie producer, and very architectural house, very nice. And then the owner or the producer came one day and he said, "Oh, can you move this wall there?" Like, okay, no problem. We moved the wall there, and a couple of days later comes back, can you move this there? And then this kept going on. And then like at some point I had to like address it, like seriously, like we're moving walls. It's not just one thing. And then he said, yeah, on my movie sets, they always move them. Like,
this is not the same thing, man.
This is the construction site. It's permanent.
He wants to live in a movie set. That's funny.
Right. So that was one aspect. I mean, there's always one project that we had finished also recently. It was very small units, beautifully done. So, but the clientele was younger, and we didn't see any children. So it was either single people or couples. And then as they were moving in, one of the couples came to me and said, "Hey, we have something to tell you." Like, yeah. And then the gentleman says, very happily, "My wife is pregnant." And I was so happy to hear their joy that they're moving into a project that did not have any children yet. Yeah. And they're the first one to say, "You know what, we're going to have a child in this project." And literally this was like, the age group was 25 to 35.
Yeah.
Who bought it. And it was incredible. It was a very nice feeling as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It kind of goes back to what you were saying with, that feeling of completing something and being there, like, when it all finishes and people are actually getting to use it.
Yeah. I mean, it's more than four walls, right? Yeah. You're creating a home for that family and the memories that are going to go on for years and years,
Absolutely.
I remember. Yeah. Same. I mean, we were newly married, probably 16, 17 years ago. And we bought a house. We didn't have it custom built, but we bought a house and it was brand new. And you walk the halls and you think of like, these two empty bedrooms that maybe one day might have cribs, and they did, right? And so then you start painting and all those things that come in, and those memories that you hold on to. I mean, and that's the nice thing and the neat thing about what you guys are doing. You're creating a living space, an environment for these families that they can actually create legacies from. I think that's probably one of the neatest things about what you get to do, on top of the fact that every day is something new, right? You have every project is new. Every project is different. Like to your point earlier, you're going to walk in on something and it presents its new challenge for that day and for that project. I think it's just super exciting. It beats being an engineer, I guess, here in America, right?
For me,
sitting behind the desk. Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes within LA, my wife and I are going somewhere, and then I'm taking a road, and she says, "This is not the way. There's a shorter way." And then afterward, I tell her, "No, we can go this way." And then she says, "Oh, I know. You're gonna pass by one of the projects." And it's true.
Sure,
right there. Yep. Yeah.
Pride and joy of seeing it again. Yeah. I built this like 15 years ago, and it's still looking beautiful. Yeah. It's a very nice feeling.
No, that's awesome for sure.
That's great.
Well, Serko, we appreciate the time, man. This has been great. I think we look forward to seeing what you guys are doing in the future and keep it in touch for sure. I know Brian obviously is going to keep in touch.
Fantastic.
You guys call him when you have problems, though, too, for sure.
Oh, he does. And we have problems that we deal with. So got that going.
Brian is great. Mike, thank you so much. Brian, thank you very much.
Before we let you go, let everybody know where to find you, how to get a hold of you.
Websites, anything like that. Yeah.
Website is quadrantinc.net, and probably that's the best way to find me. There's all the information in it.
Awesome. Thank you,
Thanks
Serko.
again, Serko. It's been awesome.
Thank you very much. Great.
Have a good one. Stay safe.
Bye-bye.
All right, and we're out.
Hey, thanks for listening. And if you've made it this far, go ahead and give us a like or 5 stars or whatever means you like us.
Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next episode. And check out our website for more video content and extras.
While you're there, shoot us a message if you want to be a guest. We'd love to have you on.
Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.